Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to Sunny Side of the Dome. I'm your host, Karen Soutar, and I'm here to talk some Blue Jays baseball with you for the next half an hour or so. Sunny Side of the Dome is brought to you by Jays from the Couch. We stream live on Jays from the Couch's YouTube channel Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. And you can also catch us on our Facebook page or Twitter page. We post the links there so you can always follow along live on any one of those mediums. And if you don't catch the live version, no problem. When you're ready for us, we're ready for you. You can always log on and view the show and see what the heck I have to say this week after the fact. And if you like the content that we bring to you here at Jays from the Couch, there's lots more where that came from. So there's Jays from the Couch's main podcast, which is Mondays at 6 p.m. It's hosted by the head honcho at Jays from the Couch, Sean Doyle, and Sean does a great job with the podcast. He has a wide variety of different guests. You never quite know who's going to be on with him on any given week. It could be other Jays from the Couch writers, or a variety of different people, bloggers who cover other MLB teams, professional MLB people such as Shai Davidi, Keegan Matheson. They actually do these things for a living, whereas we do them for fun, or even Blue Jays players, prospects. Jordan Romano was back a while back, a number of weeks ago. So if you haven't been checking that out, make sure you do it. And that is also available in addition to the YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter pages. That's also available as an actual radio podcast. So Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, any quality podcast carrier has Jays from the Couch. So we're easy to find. We're out there. And the other show, the weekly show, is Tuesdays at 6 p.m. The Unfeck Circle, hosted by my Jays from the Couch crazy colleague, Steve Feck, the Feckless Wonder. And Steve's always got lots to say, very interesting opinions, smart man, very funny. And some of his opinions tend to be a bit on the controversial side, shall we say. I don't always agree with him myself, but he's very worth a listen. He might expand the way that you think about things in ways that you'd never really thought of before. And I always think that's very valuable, even if you don't end up agreeing. So if you haven't been checking that out, Tuesdays at 6 p.m., make sure you tune into that. And happy Thursday evening, Blue Jays fans. How's it going? Are you guys in as great a mood as I am? No particular reason why, of course. What a fun week. What a fun 6 games it's been, with the off day on Monday since the last time we visited with each other. So before I really get into all of that, as usual, the housekeeping items, the transactions from the last week. So players going on the injured list. Joe Panik, unfortunately, he has a calf strain, and he was playing pretty well overall in a backup role, so now he is on the 10-day injured list. Rowdy Tellez, who'd been optioned a while ago, was called back up, and we've seen him sporadically, unfortunately, with some mixed results. Hi, Sarah. Thank you. Love the broom. Yes, I love the broom, too. When our team wins, we deserve to be able to celebrate it. So we not only swept that series, we swept the season series against that lovely team from Atlanta. So yeah, maybe we could just play them from now on. Yes, so Panik on the IL, Tellez back up. Alejandro Kirk, unfortunately, he was already on the injured list. Now he's been transferred to the 60-day IL, so he's not coming back anytime soon. They must have realized that, or they wouldn't have put him on the 60-day. So very unfortunate, very talented hitter. And hopefully he can work his way back. We'll see how that goes. They added AJ Cole, he had to be added to the 40-man roster as well as to the 26 because they activated him. He'd been on the taxi squad. I believe he had an opt-out by May the 15th if he wasn't added to the Major League roster. So they let's face it, that pitching, I mean, it's almost been a revolving door to the IL and this and that, so they needed help. Brought him up, and so far in 2 games, no problems. He hasn't given up a run, so another good ad. Tice, another relief pitcher that's done pretty well overall so far this season. He's been optioned. I'm sure we'll see him again. Nate Pearson, my goodness, he was brought up, and he had, unfortunately, as I'm sure we all know, a very forgettable outing when he started this past Sunday, and he has since been optioned back down. But last week, I think somebody asked me about Nate Pearson and what was my opinion as far as how much longer before we see him. And I mean, you hate to see it because he just has so much talent, but he really didn't look ready, unfortunately. I've read actually, because Pearson has spent so much time dealing with different injuries in his career, that they've actually tried to change his mechanics a bit and his delivery and try to get him to do things in a way that he won't get injured so often. So fingers crossed about that. But maybe it's something that he's really still getting used to and I'm not 100% comfortable with, and therefore maybe just not as effective. So now he's back with the Buffalo Bisons, and we really hope that he can get back to being the Nate Pearson that we've been waiting for and fingers crossed for. And I'm sure we haven't seen the last of Nate Pearson. So there's that. Rafael DeLeese, unfortunately, 10-day IL, also a calf strain. So see about that, and hopefully he won't be out all that long. And the Jays have called up Jeremy Beasley, who they acquired not all that long ago. Hasn't gotten into a game yet, so we'll see. I'm not sure if they're waiting for like a low leverage kind of situation, and I haven't had one of those lately. I don't think that the Jays have pretty much been in most games, but they haven't really blown anything out either. So we'll see about that. So those are the transactions, and there were actually some injury updates during the week, and just talking about various different players on the injured list, those players that I mentioned, also other guys like George Springer, not Jordan Romano. He's back. He was on the IL. He's back. He pitched today. Julian Merriweather is what I meant to say. Thomas Hatch, like a lot of these guys, they're in various states of working their way back from the injured list. So we'll see. Fingers crossed that we can get some of them back healthy and contributing like we know that they're capable of. And things are going well, and knock on wood, they could get that much better. So on to the heart of tonight's order. So the week that was and how to move forward from that. So in the last 6 days, 4-2, darn good, especially for being on the road. How they got there, so sweeping away Atlanta, which just finished this afternoon. They look great in doing it. Unfortunately, over this past weekend, they lost the first series that they'd actually lost since mid-April, so that's really not that bad. All things considered, I mean, you're going to lose a series sometime, and overall, I think the team looks really good. So the offense, everybody knew that this team was going to hit and they were going to score runs, and some of the regular players took them a little bit of time to get going, and now some of them have really come around. Bo Bichette, I mean, he was sort of up and down results-wise. Marcus Semien started very slow. Teoscar Hernandez, I mean, part of that, he missed a couple of weeks being on the COVID IL, and just some other guys, even Kevin Biggio. A lot of these guys have really heated up recently, and when they're all hitting at the same time, in the same game, in the same inning, stringing hits together and scoring runs like that, like they did today in the ninth inning, it's just so much fun for Jays fans to watch and to have that to look forward to. I mean, darn weekday afternoon game for those of us like me who have full-time jobs Monday to Friday. I didn't really get to see much of it. I was following as much as I could, but still very happy to see as much as possible and hear about it. So that's great. Areas where the Jays could use some improvements. So their bullpen has been terrific overall. They, even in a game that they won today, they had only their second blown save of the season, and that was by Tim Meza, who prior to today, his numbers were pretty darn good, and unfortunately they just got to him a bit today for a couple of runs, but the offense came back and they pulled it out and they won, so fantastic. So what does this team need? They currently have a record of 20-16. That's good for a tie for second place in the division, in the AL East division. They're only a game out of first place behind the Boston Red Sox. So again, the sky's the limit, and they could easily move up. They're also at this very moment tied for the second wild card spot in the American League, pending the results of the New York Yankees game, because they're tied with the identical record that the Yankees have. So let's hope that the Tampa Bay Rays can actually do us a favor, because heaven knows they owe the Jays a favor from several past seasons, just absolutely killing this team. So yeah, do us a favor, beat the Yankees, and then we can be in sole possession of the second wild card spot by the end of today, and that would be great. So what do they need in order to move forward, in order to continue the success that they've had so far, and maybe even improve upon it? I mean, as I said, they're only a game out of the division lead. They could end up winning the division. There isn't really a team in the division or even in the American League that seems to be a juggernaut that's absolutely running away with everything, that there's nothing that they don't do well. So there is a window of opportunity. So what do they need? Well, areas of concern. In Major League Baseball, the Blue Jays are number one, and not in a good way, in the most innings pitched by relief pitchers. So the starters really haven't been going deep enough into games. Now that's as a group. What we need to do, if we really want to look at it and delve into it, is basically the way I look at it myself, looking at the starting rotation, is there's two groups. There's Hyunjin Ryu, Robbie Ray, and Steven Matz. So they're Group A, and Group A has been doing pretty darn well overall. They've had, amongst the three of them, they've had a couple of starts here and there that weren't all that great. For the most part, the three of them have been very solid and done quite well, much more often than not. And they've also averaged a little over 5.5 innings per start. And again, we talked about it a bit on the main podcast, this past Monday. My Jays from the Couch colleague, Jim Scott, pointed out to us recently that an average, if the entire rotation was averaging 5.5 innings per start, that would be the best in Major League Baseball. So the three of them, Ryu, Ray, and Matz, I don't think we really have a problem from them. They've been doing what we need them to do. What the Blue Jays need is some better options in the rest of the rotation, in the number 4 and 5 spots, if you will, and looking at, basically anybody other than those three who has started a game for Blue Jays this season. They've only had somebody pitch as many as 5 innings on 2 occasions, and both of those were Ross Stripling, and one of them was today, that he pitched just well enough. After getting off to a shaky start, he actually settled down and looked pretty decent for 5 innings, and I'm thinking, I don't know what management was thinking regarding Ross Stripling prior to this start, but after this start, I'm thinking that they're going to give him at least another try or two in the rotation and see if he can maybe solidify things. And you know what? All he has to do is do what he did today. Pitch 5 innings, even if you give up a couple of runs, and the team has a chance to win, which ultimately they did. Excuse me for just a moment. So yes, Ross Stripling, so there's a possibility. So I want to look at some different things. So first off, what I think they should have done, even though it's too late, I just think it warrants a comment. What I think they should do at this point, because ultimately you do have to move forward, even if you make a misstep at some point, and everybody does. There's no such thing as a perfect player, manager, or general manager, but you're going to make your blunders, and hopefully you learn from them. So what they should have done, what they should do at this point, and what I think that they should not do. So first off, what I really think they should have done in the off season, and I believe I commented on it more than once previously on Sunny Side of the Dome, I really wish they had re-signed Taijuan Walker. I mean, I'll always be a fan of his. From what I know of him, seems like a decent guy. He's performed so well on the field. I mean, he was just great for the Blue Jays in the short time that he was a Blue Jay, and he expressed interest in possibly returning to the Jays. Now, only he knows if the Jays were his first choice per se, or maybe there were a handful of teams that he was interested in, and the Jays were one of them. I don't know. But I remember on Twitter there was a picture of downtown Toronto, and he posted the caption, "I could get used to this view." well, with or without Walker, we'd love to have the Toronto Blue Jays actually back in Toronto at some point, but that's a whole other story. But yeah. I mean, he was apparently interested. The Jays were rumored to have interest in bringing him back. What it seems like to me, because Walker did end up, as we all know, with the New York Mets, with a 2-year guaranteed contract and then actually a player option for the 3rd year. Looking at the structure of that contract, I mean, in MLB terms, it's really not all that terrible. I think it's $10 million for this year, $7 million for next year, and then the player option is $6 million, or there's a $3 million buyout if he ends up not picking it up for the 3rd year there. I mean, I really wish the Jays had done that. And people who are much more into analytics than I am point out that according to the stats of the day, the expected stats. So you've got your ERA, you've got your FIP, but then there's an xERA and an xFIP, where somehow they figure out that based on a player's mechanics and I don't even know what the heck else, that there's a way of predicting what they think a player should or should not be able to accomplish. And Walker has really beat the odds in terms of his actual results for when he was with the Jays and so far with the New York Mets. He's pitched to a 2.20 ERA, including a very dominant performance just yesterday, went deep into a game, 2.90 FIP, so also under 3 runs a game. And I just wish they could have come to terms. It kind of seems like the Jays wanted him back, but only for a year. I mean, basically every player who they've acquired in the last 12 months, with the exception of George Springer, has only been a 1-year commitment. So even Steven Matz, who they traded for, he's eligible for free agency in a year, and all the other signings, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. So I guess they've got their reasons for not wanting to go that much longer, but I mean, when you look at the team that the Jays have built and what it is that they still need, and that's kind of what might have been, and it still sort of stings. I'm happy for him, happy for the Mets, but what he could have done with the Blue Jays. However, that's that. I just wanted to make that comment. And ultimately, we do have to move on and work with what we do have and the players that we do have available to us. So Ross Stripling, I mentioned him as a possibility. In the offseason, I talked a bit and I wrote a bit about options for the rotation, some young guys, some who were officially still prospects, a few with a bit too much experience to still be prospects, as well as some bounce back candidates. So how has all of that gone? Well, Robbie Ray and Steven Matz, the aforementioned, they've both done quite well, I think. And another bounce back candidate, Tanner Burwark, well, he's been bounced all the way out of the organization. So all the best. He was actually signed to a minor league deal with Atlanta. So some people wondered if we might even see him in this series. That didn't happen, but all the best to him. But he's no longer in the picture for the Jays. Ross Stripling, I was almost at the point of saying that it really doesn't look to be working out for him. And then today, maybe he bought himself a reprieve in the eyes of some of the fans, but more importantly, in the eyes of Blue Jays management. If he has it in him to even go 5 innings and pitch like he did today, anything close to that, and I mean, he could be a back end of the rotation starter. As far as the younger guys, well, what's happened to them? So Nate Pearson, I already mentioned, got a brief look at him. Unfortunately, in terms of where he is right now, he just doesn't seem to be ready, and I don't know what it's going to take. As I said, he's now back at AAA. Whether he works on the new mechanics and gets to the point where he's comfortable and he can pitch like the dominant pitcher that he has been in the past, let's hope that happens sooner than later. As I said, I'm sure we'll see him again. And but for now, he doesn't look like an immediate option. TJ Zoick was another one that was mentioned, and they did give him a few turns in the rotation, started off pretty well, and every time out it just seemed to not go better. It seemed to actually go worse. So that's unfortunate. He's also at AAA, and maybe he's a depth option. Some others, Anthony Kay. I mean, he's up with the Blue Jays, and while I still like Anthony Kay for his talent, and to me, I'd like to see him. I'd like to see them give him a more consistent chance to be a starter every 5 days. I mean, he's had a few appearances with the Jays, and it's kind of been sporadic. He's been up and down. He starts, and then he's down, and then they don't use him for a while, and then they bring him in with runners on base. And I'd really like to see him get a fair chance. Unfortunately, right now, for him, the results have been inconsistent, so I'm not really sure what the best thing is for him. Even maybe he goes down to AAA, that's probably not what he wants, but if he gets to start every 5 days and build up some consistency and some success, then, maybe they bring him back and maybe he can really do well up here, because that's the ultimate goal. So there's that. So Anthony Kay, TJ Zoick, Nate Pearson, some other options, Thomas Hatch. We haven't seen him all year. He's been on the injured list. They're still talking like the intention is to bring him back this season. Well, I really hope so. He's got some talent, and they seem to have not wavered at all from the belief that he's going to be a starting pitcher when we do see him again. So fingers crossed, if that happens this season, then fantastic. Another option was Julian Merriweather. So they used him, as we all know, in the bullpen. I mean, he looked so lights out as a closer before he went on the injured list. Like I'm almost thinking Mariano Rivera 2.0. He was just that good that nobody could touch him. And I'm almost wondering if it's best for everyone to leave him in that role. But first, before you even try to figure out which way it's going to go, he has to be healthy again. Right now, he's not. He's on the 60-day IL, so hopefully he'll come back at some point and be healthy and be able to dominate whichever role that they do use him in. So that leaves one young player who I had in my group, and he's really my focus as far as what I think they should do. Trent Thornton. He made his major league debut in 2019 with the Blue Jays, pitched pretty much the whole season. I think he had a very short IL stint in the middle of the season, didn't last very long, and he was sort of up and down in terms of his results. About half of his starts were pretty good. The other half really weren't so good, but that's not a huge surprise for a rookie who was getting his first taste of opposing hitters at the highest level that there is in Major League Baseball. So there was some adjusting. Trent Thornton actually got some advice about a couple of things from a veteran that the Blue Jays had in 2019, Clay Buckholtz. And after that happened, and Thornton pitched, I believe, his final 11 or so starts of the season, he really looked a lot better. His numbers were very much improved. I was looking forward to seeing what he could possibly do last year. Well, as we know, last year for him was a wash because he was injured, didn't pitch well, but really it was probably the injuries that caused him to not pitch well. And finally his season ended, and so I pretty much throw that out the window as far as Trent Thornton. This year, he's been with a major league club. He's been pitching out of the bullpen, and he's one of several members of the Blue Jays bullpen that has just done so well. He's been in 11 games. His ERA so far is 2.45. Now, he's only pitched 18 and a third innings, and this is where, I mean, they obviously know more than I do, and maybe they've got a legit reason for wanting to keep Thornton in the bullpen rather than putting him back in the rotation. If there isn't something medical there, then I really think that's probably one of their best bets. Here's a young guy. He has pitched as a starting pitcher. He's pitching well now. He's had some success as a starting pitcher in the past. As I said, inconsistent, but the end of 2019 was looking promising for him. And now that he's healthy again, I was kind of wondering if he might be able to pick up where he left off back then. But for some reason, he's still in the bullpen. So that's something that I really hope the Blue Jays are giving some serious consideration to, letting him have an actual rotation spot, stretch him out. I mean, there should be the opportunity. Let him pitch 2 innings a stint, then move it up to 3 and then to 4, and just they really need the rotation help. They've done phenomenally well as far as bullpen and getting guys to pitch in relief and pitch very well. Guys that it's like, where the heck did these guys come from in a lot of cases? And they've just done a phenomenal job putting the bullpen together. They can afford to lose Trent Thornton out of the bullpen if he can become a successful starting pitcher. So that's one thing I really hope that they're looking seriously at. And finally, what I don't think they should do, and this probably isn't going to be a very popular comment, at least not with some people, some of the people that I follow on Twitter for sure, but Alec Manoa, he's got a lot of people excited, rightfully so. And trust me, I'm one of those people. All the way back to when he was drafted, he was a high pick. I found out as much as I could about him, and he looks like a good pick. It wasn't too long before, in my mind, I had him as part of the Jays' future. And he's just, ever since then, it's only been the sky is the limit. He started his pro career in 2019 with the Vancouver Canadians, who at the time were the low A ball affiliate. Got into 6 games, pitched quite well, and then, as we know, in 2020, there was no minor league season, so that was really unfortunate for all of those minor league players that basically had their development put on hold for a year. So Manoa's come back, and he was drafted out of college, so he also has that experience playing quite competitively for college. He's come back, looked absolutely great in spring training against legit major league hitters. Didn't allow a run, got like 1,000 strikeouts or something like that. That's what it felt like. He's had 2 starts so far. They started him at AAA, so that in and of itself is pretty impressive for somebody who had never pitched above low A ball. And in his 2 starts, he's not showing any signs of slowing down. No runs, only 3 hits, 17 strikeouts, 2 walks, like a couple of hit batters, I think 2-3 hit batters. So hasn't been perfect, but darn near close. I mean, AAA hitters don't look like they can do much of anything against him. And so many people are of the opinion that, call him up now. The Jays need pitching. This guy looks like he can help. I think we're going to see him at some point in 2021. I want to see him in 2021. I think that he could help the Jays, but I don't want them to rush him. Right now, Alec Manoa is still a prospect, and he has such a high ceiling, along with Nate Pearson and 1 or 2 of the others. I want their development to be as close to perfect as it can possibly be. If I had the ability to tell an MLB organization when it's the perfect time to promote a prospect in terms of his development, well, I'd be doing this show from my own private island because I'd be so rich from selling that insight to an organization that, I mean, there's always, if someone's doing well, you don't want to leave them in the minor leagues unnecessarily if they're truly ready for Major League Baseball. But then if you call them up too early when they're not ready and they struggle, and that can actually hamper their development in the long run. If they end up going up and down between the majors and the minors, I don't want to see that happen to Alec Manoa. Personally, I think that he should spend a little more time at AAA. Let him at least have a full month down there. And if he keeps doing what he's been doing so far, if he really is that good, then it's not going to get any worse for him down there. And he'll be up with a big club soon, maybe June, maybe July, but I'm pretty sure we're going to see him this year. I mean, Jay's management has said as much that he could be and seems to be pushing the timeline himself. So those are some thoughts. Read the rotation, and we're almost out of time for this evening. So that brings me to Through Blue Jay Colored Glasses. So, as I've been saying, it's about the team as a whole, as it pretty much was last week. Here we are in what should, on paper, or should have been the 3rd year of a rebuilding team, because that officially happened back in 2019. They unexpectedly made the playoffs in 2020, partly due to expanded playoffs. Well, this year there's no expanded playoffs, and the Jays are moving forward as a team, currently tied for a playoff spot, and they haven't, unlike some of the rivals, the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees, who are tied or ahead of them in the standings right now, the Jays have not had the opportunity to play some teams that right now aren't doing all that well, such as the Baltimore Orioles, such as the Detroit Tigers. Boston and the New York Yankees, they've played those teams. The Jays haven't yet, but those games are coming. And they've got an opportunity, hopefully, to really beat up on some teams that aren't expected to do a heck of a lot this season. They've also got all these guys on the injured list, so much talent. They're doing well without them, but imagine if we even got half of those guys. I don't want to be too overly optimistic, because we won't necessarily get everybody back this year healthy and able to contribute. Even if we get half of them, it would almost be like making a bunch of trades at the deadline and giving up absolutely nothing and getting all this reinforcement. And as I said, I think we will see Alec Manoa at some point. I'm hoping we'll see Nate Pearson. We'll see Nate Pearson at some point. I'm hoping it'll be this year and that he'll have the mechanics sorted out and be ready to contribute. the Jays have so many options in-house. And let's not forget, there is the possibility of a trade. I don't see a trade happening in the next month or so because it's so early. And I don't see other clubs being ready to part with their top talent and basically give up on their season this early. What does that say to their fans? But coming closer to the deadline, if they have needs, I can see the Jays making some moves. I mean, they did it last year, and I think this year is going to be better than last year overall. So if there's deals to be made, they'll be doing something. So my prediction, my hot take, if you want to call it that, the Jays are coming back to Toronto in 2021, and we're going to get to see them play playoff baseball in Toronto in 2021, and I can't wait. And on that note, that's all I've got for you this evening. So thank you so much for tuning in. Let's go Blue Jays, and see